Hello, Doc. This is Tuesday Night Live, Tuesday Live, episode 1 with Doc Smith and Discern. Hello, people waking up from the programming, the brainwashing, and those on the fence. It's time to wake up. All right, so tonight we're going to have our normal 3 segments, but it's not normal because our third segment will change. Tonight we do not have a guest, but other nights we will. So, first segment, health news roundup. Second segment, a deep dive. Tonight's going to be yellow fever. And the third segment tonight will be how to heal, ways to heal, and we'll be talking about healing and health. And so, as we start every episode, I hand it over to Doc Smith.
All right, well, we all come into our centers here and find a nice Wuji posture. Take a breath in, feel the expansion in all directions of our belly and our chest. Breathing into the nose so we don't hear any breath on the way in. And then on the way out, we can do a lion's breath, tongue out. Breathe back in again. And one more time, we'll breathe into the nose, feeling our shoulders relax back and down, and out through the mouth. Okay, and we're going to add one little thing here. We did this last time. This is the purging breath. So this is the basic way we can do this anywhere. If we're sitting at the table, at the dinner table, we start to get frustrated, we can take a breath in and we can go. And we might not want to do it too loud because it might be awkward if we're at work or something like that. We can just, the idea is to relax our mouth and all these muscles here that we hold on to a little bit of our exhale. We don't let it all the way out. We hold on to it. Well, if we do that 20,000 times a day, we really need to do this. To let it all out, to balance all that out, and to let those little tiny muscles relax. I'm going to talk about why somebody, when they get to an older stage of life, they can't breathe, they can't chew. Well, a lot of that has to do with this. So let's try it one more time. We're going to breathe into the nose, expanding, relaxing our shoulders back and down, and breathing out through the mouth. Okay, we're going to add one more thing here, just a concept for everyone at home to add in, something that you can do if you've got any pain anywhere, any disease anywhere, emotional, mental, physical. The concept is simple. We start with the neck and we go down to the ankles and we open every joint by going through the range of motion, the full range of motion of each joint. So Discern, this will only take a minute here. You ready?
Ready.
Okay, good. Let's take our hands here to the back of our neck. We can interlace our fingers, whatever feels comfortable. The idea is to get the hands back here and to relax the shoulders back and down. Okay. Now I've got a good posture here, so my crown of my head is just going straight up to the heavens. My feet are flat on the floor. I feel my sits bones on the seat here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press both ways. So I'm going to press my hands this way just a little bit, and I'm going to press my neck back to work all these muscles in the back here, that when we're sitting like this, we're going about our daily lives, we're not usually working the back muscles. So we're going to open up our neck. We're going to start by actually gently using these muscles here. So about 20% strength in each direction. Taking a couple breaths here. Breathe into the nose. Expand the belly. And out through the mouth. pressing the head back against the hands. Maybe a couple more times. And then let the head go back and actually feel that range of motion there and extension. And take the third eye and kind of send it up. And then this last one, let's stick our tongue out. Come up to the center. Breath into the belly and expand all directions. And breath out. Crown up to the heavens. Okay, now we're going to take our right hand to the right ear. Same concept. We're going to press gently both ways. Relax our shoulder back and down. 10-20% energy on each direction here. Remembering to relax all this while we gently use our muscles. And after 2 or 3 breaths, we're going to take our other hand and go up and over the head like this. Look at me here, Discern. Going up and over, and then taking that ear, and then we're going to bring it over, not just straight down, but up and over. And then we're going to take this right shoulder or the other shoulder and relax it down. Couple breaths here. And this ear that we have our hand on, send it up to the heavens, while at the same time our crown of our head continues going that way and down. Now we'll take one more breath in, take the other hand up to the heavens like this, and then we're going to take and we're going to do a brush. We're going to take from here, we're going to brush down the ear, down the side of the head, down the shoulder, and pull out of the shoulder. Like that. You see how I'm flicking out the energy? So I'm going like this. Connecting it with my breath. This is Qigong. This is energy work. This is breath work. Breathing in through the nose. Expanding all directions. And out through the mouth. When we do the next side, we're going to breathe into the nose. And relax that shoulder down. 2 or 3 breaths here. Using all this musculature here on the side of our neck, but not too much of our shoulders and our pecs here. Try to mainly engage the neck. One more breath on the way in, and then up and over again with the hand, reaching it over to the ear. And I'm going to come all the way down here after going up and over and then down. Again, so this part of my head here is going that way and down. At the same time that my ear is going up. One more breath. And again, we're going to take the other hand up to the sky, up to the heavens. We're going to bring it over here, and then we're going to sweep down the ear. Take all that energy there that gets stuck and down out of the shoulder and shaking it out. Okay, so that's one of many ways we can open up our neck. We're still purging, so we're going to always breathe out through the mouth. So now we go to shoulders. And I might want to get up here. We'll see here. You feel free to sit, stand, whatever feels good. With shoulders, we're going to start doing nice big circles to the front. Okay? Nice big circles to the front, but not too many of them. Maybe 5. Okay? We do plenty of shoulders to the front, so we don't need to do too much. There you go.
So rolling around the joint.
Yeah, just opening that whole joint and going to the front. There we go. So get you about 3 or 5 of those. Breathing out through the mouth. And then come back to center. And then we're going to go backwards. About twice as many. Okay? You feel some pops and some stuff. That's good. Get it all moving. If you feel like doing this, do this. There we go. Okay, opening up our shoulders. And now we'll do our elbows and our wrists and each of our knuckles and everything all at the same time. Let's pretend like, let's get down into like a horse pose here. You might not be able to see in my horse pose, my legs here, but the idea is we're serving trays, okay? And we're not going to let the food spill, okay? And we've got to go all the way over here. We can't move our feet. We've got to serve somebody all the way over here and back here. And then over here and over here. And over here and over here. And over here. And then we got to go this way. Okay, now bring it all in, however you feel like moving. Feel your elbows, everything moving. Open it up, and then we're going to shake it out. Coming back into the center. It's getting warm in here.
Here too. Here too, even though it's 30.
We're not done. We're going to do the hips now.
Ooh.
So hips, we can do. Oh, I got to get this thing set up so you can see me here. You can see my hands on my hips here. The idea is I'm just going to go like this, okay? But what I want you to visualize, imagine you're in one of your test tubes at your lab, right? One of your tubes, okay? And you've got a towel wrapped around your body, okay? Around your hips, around your waist. And you've got to clean that test tube with this towel. You've got to wipe it down. So stick your belly all the way out and over. Get all the way to that test tube there. Everything. All the way to the back.
Are you in horse stance still?
No, I'm in a normal stance with my hips with my feet about hips width apart. Just moving those hips all through their range.
Nice.
About 3 each direction.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go. If anyone's at home watching, you're welcome to do this, or you're welcome to sit there and listen or watch and plan to do this at a later time. Try to check it out and do this on your own. The idea here is we're opening up all of our joints. And why do we want to do that? It's because energy gets stuck. That's the nature of disease. So we want to help it to move. So we got to open up the gate so that it can go. Just like if you got cattle in one field, you want to get them to the other pasture, you got to open up the gate, right? So we've opened up our hips. Now let's open up our knees. Now, oh, son of a gun, I got to set this thing up so you can see me. I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm going to show you here.
It's going to focus in on your face.
This thing There's a funny thing here on this camera. Okay. Well, I'll describe to you. I'm putting my feet together, my big toes together, my heels slightly apart. I'm bending my knees slightly, always, of course, and I'm putting my hands above my knees, and I'm just rotating both of them. You've probably seen this one, right?
Yeah, I see Asians doing this at my gym.
Well, maybe they're smart.
I think so.
So, exactly. So we're going to rotate our knees one direction, take it back, relax in center, breath out. We always relax one breath in center. And we go the other direction. And we want to do this every day. Every day, open up every joint, all of them, all the way up. Okay. After knees is ankles. It's a good idea usually to give yourself something to hold on to, because we're not trying to challenge ourselves here. We're just trying to open our joints, right? So I can do it by standing like this and challenging my balance on my other leg, but there's really no reason to. Let's just relax. Take a nice breath in. Breath out. Pick up. You see how I'm picking up my leg here? Where the heck is that? There it is. Okay. All I'm doing is rotating my ankles, okay? But I'm just standing up like this. There's a way to set this thing differently so that way I can actually show you what I want to show you.
So rotate the joint 3 to 5 times in each direction.
Yeah, exactly. So my ankle is just going like this.
Wrists too. Yeah.
What's that?
You can do it with your wrists too.
We should do it with our wrists too. Exactly. There's a whole set of things we can do with our wrists. We go like this, and then this, and just kind of going in between those with rest in between, okay? But right now we're at ankles, so I'm going to open up my ankles here. I wish people could see my foot right now, because I want to see what I'm doing is I'm rotating like this, and then every once in a while I kick it out. Just let it, like, oh, there's a little something. Let it go. Let it move, right? Whip it out. I'm gonna open up my other ankle. Breathing into my belly here. Other direction. Okay. Well, this is awesome. I want one of these days we're gonna have to just do Qigong for this whole live stream.
I like it. It feels great. I could imagine doing it more than once a day too.
Yeah, I do it throughout the day, and I do my noon Qigong flow, and just throughout the day. People are used to me now just going.
That's why I call you horse breath when you're not around.
I like that. Maybe that could be my MC name. Horse breath. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. We're starting out with the news roundup.
All right, so yeah, we had an expanded Qigong session today. That was really nice. I've never done that before. I've seen people do things like that, and the neck, it feels so good.
Good.
Wow. All right. So Qigong and flow. That was fun. That was awesome. All right. So our first segment is always pretty much after doing some amazing ancient Chinese medicine like we just did with Doc Smith. Our first segment will be like a health news roundup. But it's not just health, it's science. And because a lot of science has to do with health a lot of times. I put science in quotes, I put health in quotes. Sometimes it depends what we're talking about. Because when Doc Smith and I are talking about science, we're talking about adhering to the scientific method. What we see out there in the news and the media, they don't do that. Even scientists don't do that. When Same thing with health. When Doc and I are talking about health, we're not talking about the average things that they're telling everybody. We have things that might be better for individuals, and so that's how health should be to us. It's a little individual. It's not one size fits all. So Doc reminds us, healing is free, and you got to check out healingisfree.com. Might as well talk about healingisfree.com for a minute, Doc. You ask people to come on there for multiple reasons, but one of them to just participate in research. Could you tell us about that for a minute?
Sure, thanks. So my goal with this is the research is, the thesis is that we can self-heal our most common symptoms without spending any money, without any products. So I want to test that thesis. I feel like in the last 8 or 10 years, I've, like I'll tell you, like, this is, to me, this is the truth. This is the way it is. I've seen it over and over again. I don't need to test it for myself, but I like to write anyway, and this is what I want to do anyway. So I might as well start. I realize, I might as well start actually making formal research out of this. And my ultimate goal in 5-10 years is to write a book, and
or 3.
What's that?
Or 3.
We'll see. Who knows?
And so if you check out Healing is Free, you can volunteer for Doc Smith's research. And of course, we give information for free all the time. We'll help anyone. But of course, we do take clients for poignant 1 to 2 hour sessions, physically or over the phone. I do Zooms and videos and over the phone. Doc Smith can do that, plus see you physically and manipulate you and do Tway Na and do wrong with you. So I think I love it. So check out healingisfree.com, see what it's about, see what Doc's doing, and help us show that the body heals itself. You can do it. We can teach you, and you do it. We're not healers. We're not here to heal you. We're here to help point some things out and talk about stuff and discuss. And we do have experience, as Doc just said. We've been doing this for a long time. We're not guessing. We know, but we don't always talk in absolutes. But we know how things work because we've seen enough clients and done things ourselves. And that's what I would say to anyone. You have to try it for yourself, or else you'll never know. You can say all kinds of negative things, but you don't know. And so examples are Discern and Doc. We're happy. We feel great. And every morning it's wonderful. It's all positivity.
Life's pretty good, honestly. Could be worse, then worse.
I mean, it does.
If anybody out there struggling, know that it will get better, and know that God's plan is perfect for your life. When, I have so many people in my life that have been struggling recently, and you know what? There's a lot of them that are making it too, and they're getting to that point that's at the bottom. They think that everything's falling apart, and then. Nothing because I've talked to them or anything like that, but a month later they're realizing, oh yeah, I'm out here for a walk and the sun's out and life is good, and wow, things are not so bad, so that's how it goes.
We've all been through struggles. We've all had hard times, and guess what? We're better because of it. And just taking a walk, just looking at the waves, a lake, the trees, I promise you're going to feel better, right? Humans should be in nature more. They keep us in apartments, cubes, offices under fake light with recirculated air, all these things. Just being out in nature, it's helpful to us. And as Doc said, you will get through it. Look ahead, look to the light. I've been depressed. I've had horrible times, but got past them, and then you learn and have experience, and then the next thing comes, and you're over it quicker. You see that you can deal with it better. So experience works. So experience.
Exactly.
All right,
get news roundup.
Let's get to it. You can go first, or I'll start. Whatever.
Go ahead.
All right. So this is huge. You have to just mention it. Disease X. Is this some kind of joke? It's kind of silly. What are they telegraphing to us? What are they trying to say? Well, I don't know. What do they usually try to do? Is it calm? Is it positive? Is it forward looking and happiness? No, it's always negative. All right. So just from by default, you know that that's coming to you. So you can, like a ninja, you can block it. You can block out the negativity and you'll hear more and more. I don't know what disease X is, what their plan is, but they have plans. They've been planning things. They talk about it. They tell us. And if you just pay a little bit of attention, you'll see that they tell you. So could it be just what they've injected people with over the years, taking its toll over time? Who knows? Could it be something new? And what would that something new be? Who knows? But we do know it's not a microbe. We do know it's not a virus. Okay. Are there microbes? Yes. Bacteria exist. Fungi exist. Protozoa exist. Do they harm people? It doesn't look like it. They're in us. They're around us all the time, not harming us, right? So I don't know how people get the thought that, oh, it's pathogenic. These are pathogenic. Something happens and then it becomes pathogenic. It just doesn't make sense when if you take 100 TB patients, tuberculosis, half of them test positive, half of them don't. Half of them have symptoms, half of them don't. How does it make sense? So it tells you there's something else going on. And of course, what do we think's going on? Poisons, toxins, chemicals. And in those things, there's millions of poisons, toxins, and chemicals. Even the unnatural radiation, EMF, EMR from phones, towers, Wi-Fi, all these things, they could affect us. Could they turn it up and do things? Well, let's see. They've been studying these things for over 70 years, and you can go read them on bioinitiative.org, Henry Lay's website, and see 1,000 papers showing that EMF, EMR, electromagnetic radiation, unnatural radiations harm life, insects, cells, animals. So and humans, of course, too. And of course, some of the lighter symptoms are flu-like symptoms. So who knows what they're going to do, but they keep talking about it. All right. Be prepared. Be prepared to be like a ninja and knock away the nonsense and focus. I'm starting to focus more because of the breathing that Doc Smith's telling me, teaching us, I should say. And again, focus on what the road ahead, positivity and light, and what you need to do, not news stories and the next BS thing that you are inculcated with and you're made to join a herd and be with them for some kind of safety. No, the safety's in you. And as Doc said, there's a plan. The Creator has a plan. God has a plan. And you don't have to fear. How many times can you read it in the Bible? 300? 400? Have no fear.
Amen.
Of disease X.
It's a pretty scary name.
That's right.
Oh my God.
I can't. I don't know what to say. It's like there's no words at how silly it is.
It reminds me that even Satan works for God. Everybody works for God. And the most horrible things that are in the world that you just see it and you're like, I cannot believe that this is happening and that so many people are going along with this obvious stupid crap. And you know, if people want to line up to inject themselves based on this, Satan is working for God and he's helping everybody. God's plan is so perfect. And for us to sit here and all these health freedom movement people, all these different leaders, once you have a label on your movement, you're done. Once they've labeled your movement, you're done. Forget it. So all this movement that's out there is just finding new things to be in fear of, new things to complain about, new things to be frustrated about, new things to be angry about, new things to be sad about, new things to be worried about, new things to be obsessed about.
Distracted.
And all of that is the low vibration stuff that we know is dis-ease. That's where Satan wants us to be. That's where we're sitting there in this perfect garden, distracted by all these things that are just nonsense. And so Disease X, it's crazy. It's crazy that is what it's come to. That public health, the authorities, the powers that be, and all the adults in the room can sit there and look at each other and go, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to put out this message that be afraid of Disease X, like as if that message going out to 7 billion people just in and of itself isn't going to kill people. It's going to literally give people heart attacks. The most fearful among us are going to drop dead out of fear, just like they have in the past. And they're going to go to the doctor thinking that their cough or their symptom, their experience is not something natural, that's just part of God's plan and everything's okay, everything's working out, everything's balancing. They don't have any wisdom or understanding of the body outside of what they've been taught by these people. So they've been taught, go to your doctor. And you'll see people on YouTube. Hey, I'm going to show you this and this and this, but if you start to feel this, go straight to your doctor. Make sure you go to your doctor and talk to them. Everybody, if you're listening to me, this is not medical advice. I can't give medical advice because I'm not a medical doctor. I don't believe in medicine. I think the whole thing is bogus and inverted, and I don't subscribe to it at all. And I suggest you do the same, whether you have to claim the power of Jesus and bind any demons that get in your way, or you have to leave your job, whatever you've got to do. Medicine is not the way. Medical science is completely bogus. Philosophically, I disagree with it. I think it is anti-science, pseudoscience, almost 100%, it seems. So, if people are going to interpret every bit of their experience as something that needs to be managed as a problem, that's a choice that we're making, and we have to stop making that choice. We have to come back to that breath and go, okay, wow, I'm really, really hurting here, but what if I just breathe out and relax? What if I go through the steps, go through the protocol? People don't know the protocol. It's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault. Nobody's fault. Even the people who are in fear, they're lining up. We hate them. We're mad at them. It's not their fault. Everything is just a show. It's God's show for us to learn what we need to learn,
experience what we need to experience,
so we can learn to be grateful and learn how perfect God's plan has been. And the second part of the news roundup, I'll just get into mine because it kind of goes right into it. Because Disease X, how could we get to this point? Well, Dr. Sam Bailey, are you aware of Dr. Sam Bailey?
Yes.
Okay, nice. And her husband Mark. It was mainly Sam, I think, but on this last video, she just did a video about the plague, saying the plague is bogus.
Yes.
And it's funny because after I wrote my yellow fever essay, after reading this book, I saw that she had a video about yellow fever, so I checked that out. And then like the next day, she puts one out about the plague. But long story short, go check out her video. Okay, folks, if you're watching this, go check out Dr. Sam Bailey's video. And I looked it up. Going back to at least the Justinian plague. Have you heard of that one?
Heard of it.
So 6th century, okay? Every single major plague, major epidemic plague has been right correlated to, guess what?
War.
How did you know that?
Because if I wanted to deceive and win a war, I would use deception. So I would say, oh, you can't attack me. We got the plague. You don't want the plague. This is a plague ship. You can't attack them. Or you can't land on my shores because we got the plague. Tell us more, Doc.
Wow, that's brilliant. I hadn't even actually thought of that. That's brilliant. No,
I've
I mean,
read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's right there.
really, it's in the Art of War.
No, you get that out of it. That those, if you can think like a psychopath, you see
Right.
what they do.
Right. Exactly.
I
Well,
don't recommend it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a period of mass death. Like if you're looking at deaths over time, and you're like, oh, everything's the same for all these decades. Then boom, there's a big spike, and it's right at the same time as the biggest war of the century. Right. This goes back almost every century, every
That's
supposed
right.
pandemic. Okay,
Yep.
so the Justinian plague was right at the beginning of the Gothic War, which had just came after the Vandalic War. So the Roman Empire fell, the Goths and the Vandals are taking massive amount of territory, and then Justinian becomes the emperor, and he starts taking territory back. So it's a very tumultuous time, freaking insane.
Yeah.
You can't imagine, you grow up in this village in that port, down there. Every week, a ship comes and it's got goods on it, and that's how you survive, and that's you trade with. But then it stops because there's a war, right? And then all of a sudden, half the people in this town lose their jobs, right?
Yeah.
And this is back in the time where there was literally like you'd have the lord of the land would say, everybody out of your house, you all have to go leave. I don't care what you do. I'm burning down your houses to make pasture for sheep. Literally. Like, and these people, like, I'm reading histories of England, like that literally happened. There's stories of like these people, hundreds of them, just literally went off into the woods and cried to death. So how did people have these horrible diseases? And oh my God, look at their pockmarks and look at the buboes on them and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Imagine if half of your town became unemployed and, not able to live in their house anymore. Not, they're begging for food. Their alcoholism is rife. And then we have to also look at what did the doctors do whenever they saw, oh, somebody's got smallpox? They would literally lance the pock. They would lance it, cut it open, and some people thought that you should squeeze it out and drink it and all kinds of crazy shit. But smallpox became this horrible thing in people's mind, during the medieval times.
Yeah.
But it was because the doctors are lancing everything, so when you finally heal up, it looks 10 times worse, right? Because everything got cut. So
right. So what?
Anyway, the point is the plague is bogus. Go ahead.
Right. So did Sam's video and any of your reading, did they go into that it was possible that wells were poisoned, that people would have coal and other things and burning in their homes and basically breathing that, and so therefore getting definite arsenic poisoning and all these poisonings. What's the other one? Lead and maybe even mercury, right? When you're burning these things. Yeah. Nevertheless, who knows what they would put in a well? And so then you could ask the question, why would people have different symptoms if it's the same thing? How does that make any sense, right? Supposedly Yersinia pestis, the bacterium, came from a flea, which came from a rat, right? And when it bit you, you would get the plague. All right, so people don't realize fleas are very specific. If they have a rat nearby, they're not going to go near you. They are adapted to be on the rat. So there's many bugs like different types of fleas and other insects on birds and all these animals that are totally specific. Even your dogs, right? Our dogs, they're not. Of course, we'll get bit once in a while, but if you're sitting there and there's a dog and you, it's going right for the dog, not you. They're adapted to it. So we think that I wasn't there. But there's many hypotheses that it was basically poisons, toxins, and chemicals, just like all that we're talking about that are blamed on imaginary viruses, and of course, other microbes, including usually bacteria.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, remember, poison is not the only thing either, because unless we consider improper food to be a poison, which it really is, because what's the difference
It
between
becomes a
sugar?
toxin, or there's
It is a
chemicals in
toxin,
it.
and so the problem with a toxin, because our liver deals with toxins. So you'll talk to biologists and sciencey people who will say that's not a problem at all. Our liver breaks that down, and the drug's not a problem at all. And I'm sitting there thinking, do you understand what it takes for our liver to break that down? It means that now the liver has to pull energy from all these muscles and
Exactly.
systems all along the whole line of the liver meridian.
Exactly.
And so it's not just the fact that we're being poisoned, it's the fact that we're having to overwork, and it's like
Overwork your life essence, your life energy, your life, whatever you want to call it. Same thing with overeating. You're just going through it quickly, meaning you're making your body work harder. So of course you're going to have a shortened amount of time to do it. Very, very interesting.
well, we're taking way too long on this news roundup.
Oh, but it's fun.
That's my fault here. This is fun, but I just wanted to say for the folks at home, okay, because I'm not kidding. It's every single major pandemic, plandemic, epidemic, schmepidemic that's ever happened is right smack dab in the middle of a gigantic war, usually the biggest war of the century, starting with Justinian plague, was in between the Vandalic and the Gothic Wars. It was right there, the beginning of the Gothic Wars. Then you have the Black Death in the 14th century, 1340 to 48, around in there, 1350. That's 20 years into the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War, that's like 20 years into it. So we've got mass economic turmoil, strife, starvation, the worst stress you can ever imagine. Yeah, I would imagine that after 20 years of that, you're going to have a horrible mass death experience, especially when it began in Venice. And 1340 is right when Venice was like at its peak, and then it started to crash. And anytime you have economic inequality, you have a rich society, you're going to have economic inequality. So that's what Venice was like in 1340. There was a few super rich people, and there was a bunch of super poor people that were destitute, and those are the people that died in droves.
Right.
And they literally called it the Black Death. And there literally are paintings and pictures still, not pictures, but paintings. They were throwing live people onto the fire, onto the bonfires, because they had the plague, because they had the bug. So they literally threw people alive, burned them alive. And then they chalked it up to the Black Death. And they said, we lost 50% of our population. No, you threw them onto the fire. You threw them onto the fire. They literally needed a hug and a glass of water with some salt in it, and a good meal and a good rest and some qigong and some relaxation and some body work, and they would have been a normal year. But they literally freak out in these things. It's not any one thing. There's so many different factors going on. But when you start throwing people onto the freaking fire when they're alive, and then you call it, that's how they died of the Black Death, give me a break. Going on to the next century, the age of exploration, the 1400s, the 1500s. This is insane. You have at the same time, you have Europe going over to the Americas. There's a story in the history books that the Europeans got syphilis from the New World. Have you heard that? That syphilis came from the New World.
Not really. Go ahead.
You haven't heard that? Okay, well, you can check that out. According to the history, syphilis came from the New World, and smallpox came from Europe, and we brought it to the New World, right? You've heard that, of course, that that the Indians were decimated, 90% died from smallpox.
Of course.
They have the same symptoms.
I was wondering if you're going to go there, and yeah, there it is.
And guess what else has the same
Indians?
Guess what else has the same symptoms? Guess what else has the same symptoms? Scurvy.
Ooh.
Okay? And, many other things. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
they're not the same symptoms, but they're a basket of symptoms that can
Yep.
be mistaken for each other. You know, you have 3 of these, you have 2 of these, whatever. It's all gradations of the same thing. But the point is,
Agreed.
they're not 2 separate diseases.
Right.
It's just whether or not you have it in this place or that place, or wherever the rash happens to be at that time.
Right.
You know? And if these doctors, these medical doctors, I'm just going to call them quack doctors. I'm sorry, but that's just, they are quack doctors. If I say quack doctor, that means medical doctor. And if any medical doctors out there offended by that, just
I agree. I think it's okay to do a little bit of mocking, because I was mocked. It helped me wake up. I took it seriously.
I say it with love. I'm not. Whatever they're doing, there are medical doctors out there that are waking up and they're helping people to understand. So I shouldn't say all medical doctors are quack doctors, but I'll just say quack doctors, because they know who they are, or they don't.
They don't.
Because they don't know who they are.
You're the quack.
What were we talking about? What was my point there?
We were going...
If they understood the meridians and they understood the body, if they were actually a physician,
right,
they could look at the body and see, okay, you've got a rash right there. Yeah, that rash is, right on your, it's right on your stomach meridian. Let's just, try to clean up your intakes. Try to relax. Is there anything you're obsessing over? Are you worrying a lot? Let's breathe that out. Let's take a breath out. Okay, let's breathe in. Trust. Okay, and you can literally take care of these things without having to diagnose anything. And okay, so we're moving on. That was the news roundup. Should we just move on, because we've been doing that for a while? I could go on to. We had a couple other ones we were going to talk about, but
we'll save them for next week, and the week after, and the week after, and the week after, and the week after. Otherwise, let's get on to our deep dive on yellow fever tonight, and that'll bring us right into what to do about it. Meaning, what to do about having, quote, a disease that you're diagnosed with. And in this case, we're talking about yellow fever, but it's pretty much the same for everything when it comes to healing. You want to remove toxins, you want to detoxify, get it out of your body, and so allow your body to heal. And again, we don't give medical advice. We would never tell you to take any medicine, because we see that any medicine, simply your body is just trying to remove. Your liver has to deal with. It has to deal with these things. And so there's great quotes by old doctors that go like, any person who's given medicine has to first recover from the medicine and then recover from whatever illness they had beforehand. Hilarious stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Avoid hospitals and medical doctors like the plague. Okay? Yeah. Avoid medical science like the plague. Write that down. That's on our shirt, okay?
It's in the brain, tattooed.
Let's make up bumper stickers. Tuesday Night Live with Discern and Doc Smith. Avoiding medical science like it's the plague. Okay?
Because it's not medical science.
It's not medical science.
It's not evidence-based, but they'll tell you it is.
Yeah, it's not real medicine. Food is better than medicine, and chi is better than food. Ooh. And like you were saying, it's all about avoiding poisonous things.
Put less in. Put less toxin.
Stop putting them in. Stop washing out. Stop, and any of the senses, the ears, the eyes. Easier said than done, but every day we get another chance to do our best. Every day. Okay. Deep dive. Shall we deep dive into yellow fever?
Yellow fever. They told me it was a virus.
Okay, well, Peter Hotez, I don't know if you saw him recently. He's out there saying, hey, with the climate change, yellow fever, those the mosquitoes are going to be living in, they could be up in New Hampshire, one of these days is the climate change.
Come on, baby.
Okay, so here is the story of yellow fever, okay? And every single thing that I'm getting ready to say here is a fact, 100% lifted from this book, right here, only one source. And what I'm going to read you here is not a summary of this book. This book is about everything to do with the building and the history, the engineering, the politics of the Panama Canal. Okay? It's called Panama Fever. So Panama Fever is this book that I just randomly picked it up about, I don't know, a month ago. I saw it 6 weeks ago at a thrift store, and I just hardcover $1. I was like, yeah, see what's up with the Panama Canal.
Good price.
Well, I didn't even consider that it would be all interesting about our favorite subject. Literally, I was just thought I'd be reading about the Panama Canal. Anyway, about halfway through the first chapter, I realized that, okay, wait a minute, there's this public health story that if it weren't for the public health medical doctors, they would have never built the Panama Canal because that yellow fever was so bad. And they had this incredible fumigation campaign in 1905. And if it wasn't for that, they would have never built the canal. Well, I read through to the end and I learned the truth, okay? And I'm about to read you what I've distilled from this. This is actually like a new narrative history of the building of the Panama Canal and the so-called eradication of yellow fever here. It's only maybe a few hundred words here, so I'll just take a minute. Imagine thousands of famished contract laborers from Barbados on a 10-day boat ride to Panama, where they will dig a canal at gunpoint. There is no food for them during the trip, and these throngs of people must remain on deck night and day, despite storms or sweltering heat and no shade. They arrive to find a giant mound of pure cane sugar bags waiting for them at the wharf, and they climb over each other, grabbing handfuls to finally eat something. Then they are taken from the wharf to their barracks by men with guns, and often treated more like slaves than hired help for the remaining 2 years of their contract, if they survived. There is no running water. Potable water must be purchased. All waterways are polluted with sewage and industrial waste. Hard liquor is less expensive than drinking water, so they drink alcohol mostly instead because they only earn $1 per day. They toil 10 hours of hard labor, 6 days per week, in some of the worst conditions one can imagine. 3 meals per day are offered for 10 cents each and consist of bread, and bread. On rare occasions, meat was served, but it was mostly inedible. They had no means to wash or dry their sopping wet and dirty clothes, and often put on clothes that were already soaked in the morning for their day of labor again in the torrential rains. Initially, the West Indian labor pool was sought out because, in theory, these folks were more adapted to the environment and immune to the supposedly pathogenic microbes carried by mosquitoes, etc. Over the decade or so that the USA was in charge, over 6,000 Barbadians died and only 300 Americans. The Americans lived in much different circumstances, with far better housing, far better food, even recreation and leisure, not being treated as an inferior and so forth. Rather than addressing the environmental and material conditions for the laborers, providing potable water and real food, the public health doctors involved with the U.S. administration of the canal began an effort to eradicate the infectious diseases, which were reducing the labor pool beginning in the late 1800s. At first, their efforts to focus on mosquitoes were scoffed at, and at least one doctor serving the population argued that malnutrition was the main factor. But in 1905, Teddy Roosevelt, for some reason, decided to support Dr. William Gorgas, whose idea was to focus on eradicating a particular mosquito, despite all other leaders involved with the Panama Canal considering the doctor's ideas to be ludicrous. And a great fumigation campaign was begun to rid the isthmus of the supposed pathogen behind yellow fever. Starting in 1905, July, all dwellings were fumigated. Large swaths of flora were cut down, and they poured a thin coat of oil on top of all waterways to remove breeding grounds. And they sent specially trained public health doctors, who were locals from Panama, around to convince everyone that this whole operation was necessary. What else began in 1905 in July? They started offering $50 for each case of yellow fever reported to the authorities. And quite naturally, as these things happen, there was a large surge of yellow fever cases reported after that cash incentive was announced. Okay. And then a few months later, as the fumigation campaign was wrapping up, the incentive was withdrawn. And as reported cases tapered off, the officials declared their success over yellow fever. According to the official story, the last case was observed at the main hospital by the authorities themselves. On November 11th, 1905, Dr. William Gorges announced to his colleagues as they stood over the body, quote, "This will be the last case of yellow fever," unquote.
Miracle.
Now, son of a gun. He was correct. To this day, official public health textbooks in the colleges that you're paying $50,000 a year to go send your kids to so they can be brainwashed into this Nazi propaganda.
They did it to me, Doc.
In the textbook still.
Yep, they did it to me, Doc.
The textbook claimed that the fumigation campaign rid Panama of the infectious disease. But overall, guess what, Discern? Guess what happened in 1906? Overall, more people died the next year than ever.
Unreal.
So the public health people came in and they finally got carte blanche to do everything that they wanted. And guess what happened? The next year was the most death in the entire period that the Americans were there, over 10 years. Okay, so more people died the following year. The next year was the deadliest of the entire U.S. period. We're almost done. There were more total deaths in 1906, despite 0 people dying from yellow fever, than any year before or after. Instead, deaths in 1906 were mainly attributed to malaria or typhoid. And what are the symptoms of malaria and typhoid?
Same.
They're basically the same, and gradations of those that are called yellow fever. One of the benefits of working for the Panama Canal Project was free healthcare. All of these people died in the hospitals. Deaths outside the hospital system are not a part of this count. That means there's even more people, probably thousands, but at least 6,000 Barbadians died compared to 300 Americans. And every single one of those people died in the hospital getting treated from day one, after diagnosed and treated and everything.
Yep. So
it's not due to lack of health care. It's due to lack of actual health care. It's due to lack of health care. It is due to lack of health care. It is due to lack of access to health care. Actually, Bernie Sanders, you're correct. There is a lack of access to health care because what you're trying to give people, Bernie Sanders, is a satanic inversion of health care.
A deception.
Okay, Bernie.
Big deception.
Before. All right. Deaths outside the hospital system are not part of that count. Panama Fever is a book by Matthew Parker, and you should check it out if you're interested in the whole rest of the story in terms of engineering and the politics and the history, and the French experience was a disaster there, and it's kind of interesting. But there's a lot more to the book than that. But that was my initial read on that.
Yeah, Doc, you illustrated pretty much that there's nothing new under the sun, because I feel like that may have happened over the last few years, the same kind of thing. Blame poor, a virus caused this, a mosquito caused this, instead of what it really was, which was multiple things, right? Malnutrition, good water, drinking tons of alcohol instead of water.
The stress. I mean, imagine
The
The
stress.
I mean, we can't underplay that, because when
Yes.
you start to lose your will to live, and you're like, it's not even worth being alive. You're literally
Right.
being treated like a slave. People around you like treating you, having a gun pointed at you. You know what I mean? Like,
And the incentive to diagnose this. So, someone's not, a not good person is doing these things, meaning someone in the media, right? It just like an epidemic, it spreads. The media guy says this, others pick it up, say the same thing. Uh, the doctors want to go down and help people, but no, they have a protocol. They have to do what they're told. Give the patient this if the patient complains of or has these symptoms. And so it's the same thing as today. It's really unbelievable. And so
yeah.
let's get into really quick, as we only have a few minutes. What would you do? What can you do? How do you stave off disease and these types of things? How do you prevent? I mean, prevention's huge. We should prevent.
Absolutely, it's all about prevention. That's the goal. Is not just prevention of disease, but realization of health. And there's so many factors, like you said, reading that piece right there, it's clear that there's so many different factors. Okay, the mental stress, the physical labor stress, the environmental stress, all
It
these
takes a
things.
toll, huge toll.
Everything's taking a toll, and then you show up to the hospital and you're already in this horrible state, malnourished, stressed. And what you need in that point is the stuff that I do, and the stuff that you do, and the stuff that we can all do. But people can look, on my pinned tweet or whatever, and get an idea of what you can do with people who are seriously diseased. You need to literally sit back like this and hold yourself like this and get ready, and they're going to sit and they're going to put their back right on your chest, and we're going to relax together and do some good purging breaths and help to remind them that everything's okay. And they will, hey there, dear.
They will heal if they're allowed to, right? But you're not allowed to at the hospital if you're prescribed drugs, multiple drugs, etc. And your body has to deal with that aside from what you just dealt with.
That's the thing, is once you go to the hospital, all your problems that we just described, the stress, mental, emotional stress, and the bad food that you're already eating that's destroying you. You get bad food, you get stress, you get the lights. Now we're not moving our body, we're not out in nature. You got creepy looking doctors and nurses that are dressed weird. Like everybody's weird and very solemn and scared of you.
Yes.
Like, it's the most unhealthy, unhealing place you can possibly go to.
And what a deception to say it's from a mosquito. So that's why the nurse doesn't get it. That's why the doctor doesn't get it. But they don't do that deception really now. Did tons of nurses call in sick because they got it from all the patients they saw in 2020, 21, 22? I'm sure some did, but how could it be? How do they not get it if they saw 20 patients a day? How do you not get it 10 times? Whatever, right? It's pretty obvious, becomes obvious that these things aren't contagious, that when you have malnutrition, when you are depressed, sad, negative, not forward looking, angry, agitated, your frequency goes down, your health can only be bad. So flip it. There's a path, there's light, there's a future. It's all good. As you said, it's going to be good. Have no fear. Of course, I always like to say, try not to be deceived so much, right? God tells us, the Bible tells us, let no man deceive you, yet we allow it too much. Let's stop being so deceived and think, how could it be a virus if all these people are malnourished, in a negative state, glued to a TV watching negativity? Back then, obviously, as you described, malnutrition, negative state of emotions, and buildup of toxins, whether physical or emotional. And now you're diagnosed, and they have an incentive to diagnose you, just like today. It's unreal.
It's crazy, and it's nothing new under the sun. Just
Really?
have you ever heard a jackhammer like out on the street?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine 10,000 jackhammers, and the Panama Canal was dug. They literally had to excavate hundreds of millions of tons of earth and go down to the bedrock, and then they built, at the time it was by far the biggest dam in the world, and
Right. It was a
that
big deal.
gigantic dam, the entire valley was a cacophony of not jackhammers but a similar type of, to break the rock and stuff like that. So I mean, just you're working there 10 hours a day and it's just a constant cacophony, all of the senses being just crashed. I mean, the stress level, yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of people know about the sympathetic nervous system response, and it's called the parasympathetic nervous system response. Almost all disease is in the sympathetic nervous system. So it's the inability to get back to the parasympathetic and just relax. So
right.
So that's the main
thing to balance.
Yeah, that's the main thing for people to take away from this is
in
whatever's your symptoms. We showed you some things earlier at the beginning, the purging breath and the opening up all the joints to help the energy flow all the way through, so there's nothing getting stuck anywhere. Another thing you can do is to really learn how to engage and turn on our natural parasympathetic response, which should be like our normal, but it's not. It's almost like the sympathetic nervous response is what's normal in our culture these days, and people are almost always tensed, right? Like you'll see them just standing there, but their elbows are bent like this, or you can see them with their frustration here, their worry here.
Yeah.
Okay. So for anyone look at home, we've got the election coming up, right? And you're going to see a lot of. You're going to see we have two different characters, two different brands, marketing brands, going against each other, and one of them represents worry, and the other one represents anger and frustration. And the worry, these lines up here are called the worry lines or the spleen lines. You see these lines, right? You see the lines on my forehead, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they're not there right now, right?
That's right.
Okay, because right now I'm trusting.
Yes.
Everything is trust.
I can't get mine to
worry. So anyone at home, if you want to find the fountain of youth, remember that our organs is driving our emotions. It's all connected, and the lines. These are lines that go all the way from the heavens to the earth, and our organ is just the manifestation of that energy right here. So these lines up here are spleen lines, and the spleen is what obsesses, and the stomach gets worried. So when we're feeling those emotions, it's actually here. It's not up here in our brain. We've got some idea that we're not letting go. That might be up there, but the emotion is acquired here. It needs to be balanced through our breath. We breathe in trust, breathe out worry, relax up here. And then the other one is Trump he's almost always like this. Okay, that's liver lines. That's frustration. That's anger. So liver is wood element. That corresponds to the acquired emotion of frustration and anger. Whereas stomach and spleen is earth element. So it's like earth versus wood. And we'll see what happens with these two. But you'll see that almost always Biden has his worry lines, and Trump almost always has his liver lines, spleen lines and liver lines. But for folks at home, you'll see it in your face. You'll see it in your body. If you're in the sympathetic nervous system response, that could be your normal. That's a lot of people's normal. That was my normal for a long time, 30 plus years. Every single thing is just a little bit tight. You're not letting that exhale go all the way out. Then relaxing, letting it out. Okay? So if you find yourself, if you see the lines on your face, if you see yourself tensed up like this, let it out. Relax it out. Breathe out, open the mouth. You can do like we've talked about and expand into the Wuji posture, create more empty space inside you. You can open up all the joints top to bottom, get everything flowing so we're not holding on to stuff.
Beautiful.
So whoever gets elected, doesn't matter. They're both two heads of the same snake.
When are we going to learn?
Yeah. So God is in charge. It's all perfect. And Discern, we gotta roll, brother. It's been a while. We've been almost 75 minutes doing this. This is great. But the lady just came home, and I'm going to go say hi to her.
All right. So great job tonight, Doc. You taught us a lot. You gave us at the end there, I mean, at the beginning, how to do it, and then at the end, how to do it again. And this is just another way of healing, starting with positive emotions and breathing and flow. And so next week we'll have 3 segments again. We'll do better at keeping our timing. But
It's all perfect.
First segment is health news roundup. Second segment we'll deep dive into something. Today we did yellow fever. Maybe we'll do polio. Who knows? Next week. And the third, we're going to talk about healing. Tonight, Doc told you what he does. I might talk more next time. But the third, we might have a guest or a testimony from one of our clients. Oh. So Doc and I do some reading. We've got some nice libraries, and it doesn't mean that everything we read is great or we agree with, but that's how it also just brings you to thinking about things.
This book is great.
Oof.
You should. Have you read this?
No.
Okay. Well, you would
I
love
don't
it.
like reading about drugs.
Well, you might not want to read it then, but but I'm gonna do an essay on this one because I finished this one, and oh my goodness, Hitler was thinking that his doctor. Hitler was like, "You're not cleaning off the needle enough."
Oof.
That's why I'm getting these track marks.
Interesting.
He thought that bacteria were on the needle, and that's why he was getting tracked. He was obsessed with bacteria. Hitler.
Perhaps we'll do that one next week.
It could be fun to do this one next week. Yeah.
Cool.
This is a really cool book. I mean, he definitely slams the Nazis for being just a bunch of freaking meth heads, man. They were just a bunch of freaking meth heads. That's what they were. They were meth.
The
Nazis were on speed.
I think you have to be so deceived, right? And easily brainwashed. But humans are easily led. We're seeing it all the time. Animals.
Hey, brother.
All right, Doc.
This is fun. Yes. Let's take it out on an ohm. We'll do 3 breaths together here. We'll breathe in through the nose.
Ending the stream. 3 breaths.
Relaxing the shoulders back and down. Send the crown up to heaven. And on the third one, we can do the Om sound. All right. This is fun, brother.
Thank you for the focusing us and the calming, and of course, be happy. Everything's going to be okay. So,
right.
Tuesday night next
week.
See you
next Tuesday.
7:00. Thank
Tuesday
you.
Night Live.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, brother. Healing is free.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
It's free.